So while I continue to be kind of conflicted about my love um, for staged fighting, and last night's Raw was, if for people who say, yeah, well, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. Just show them the backstage brawl last night where Charlotte knees Ronda in the side of the head, and you can see Ronda's bleeding right after. That was a solid shot by Charlotte. That was something. And to me, it seemed like something that Ronda would have told her. Said, "Look, you do this. Just go ahead, knee me in the head." And Charlotte might have said, "You sure now?" Because that's the kind of thing that wrestlers will normally go, "Are you sure? Sure about that?" And then when they say, "Yeah, you all right." Now, trying to predict this year's WrestleMania is tricky. It is because there's so many bloody matches. If this doesn't show that they need another company to come in, and challenge their spot, and or make WrestleMania 2 days. I saw somebody post that a few days ago on a wrestling site that I go to, and I thought, you know what, they're right. A 2 day WrestleMania event would be a lot better, where some of these matches are on Saturday and some of them are on Sunday. You could make the match between Kofi and Bryan end the show on day one, and then the Ronda Rousey fight ends day two. And I think that would be perfectly fine. And I think then you have two uh, pretty long events, but fans would actually still have some energy left. I do worry that after all this is done, fans won't have any energy left. Not only that, but how much stuff's going to end up on the pre-show. And then I want to make mention at the start, so I've got these names along the bottom. The Riot Squad, EC3, Kevin Owens, Rusev, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Asuka. I wish these guys were on the card. I do. And I understand Asuka, Riot Squad, EC3, they've all already been announced for Battle Royals. That's not what I'm talking about. Asuka held that title. Had Becky tap. Now out of nowhere she loses the belt and she's stuck in a Battle Royal, which could end up on the pre-show. Some of this has to end up on the pre-show. There's no way you can make this work. So the fact that Shinsuke and Rusev were fighting for the U.S. title, and then for no reason they're a tag team, and then they just lose, it's too bad. And it's one of those things that happens in the business, and it's too bad because Rusev was really, the fans loved Rusev, and then I don't know why they made him a bad guy again. It doesn't make, and then not only did they make him a bad guy, but then he just loses. Okay. And Shinsuke Nakamura is one of the best pure wrestlers I've ever seen live, and he's not taking a prominent spot in the card. But you got to get Triple H and Batista in there because Batista's a main event mainstream star, so you got to get that in there, I guess. And Kevin Owens comes back to some hoopla and gets a shot at the title, and in the next event he's nowhere to be seen. So it seems legit. And EC3 came in, and I've never been a big fan of EC3, to be honest, okay? But there seems to be a ton of potential for him, and he's in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. The only way that this makes any sense is if he wins it. But it is a ton of wrestlers that just, it's funny because I watched the original Andre the Giant Battle Royal, or no, the second Andre the Giant Battle Royal was in the WrestleMania I watched yesterday on WWE. And that's the one where Baron Corbin wins it. And most of the guys in that match were just basically nobodies, for lack of a better way of putting it. And a lot of them are in this one too. It's almost the same crew, and it's like, wow. So what happens is at this time of year, WrestleMania is your biggest payday. And wrestlers get a cut. So if you're not on the show at all, you don't get a cut. So WWE tries to make sure they cram as many people into this as possible. And this is what happens. So for the women's battle royal, honestly, if Asuka doesn't win it, so I'm taking Asuka. I'd be very disappointed if it wasn't Asuka. Watch them give it to Mandy Rose. They want Mandy Rose to be a main event star because she might be the best looking woman on the card. And I know there's people who will debate that and say, oh, she's not good looking, but they know what they've got with Mandy Rose. I think they fashioned her to be another Trish Stratus. The thing was, Trish Stratus was really good on the microphone right out of the gate. And she could make herself very likable or very unlikable. And I haven't seen that with Mandy yet. Mandy, to me, Mandy really hasn't found her character. The wrestling's got better. She's not as sloppy as she was, but I do hope Asuka wins the Battle Royal. And I think of the women listed, it would make sense to give it to her. Because they just hosed her out of the title. Don't hose her out of the Battle Royal, too. Andre the Giant Battle Royal. You know, everybody's going to think Braun Strowman, and he might win it. But I'll say some kind of screwy thing with Michael Che and Colin Jost happens, and your winner's EC3 somehow. Because he's the only one out there. Now, Apollo Crews are setting up as the one to win it. But I hope it's EC3. So again, we're into the I hope. Because it's a match of, 20 people. So I can just say, well, I hope this guy wins it. Give the guy something of a push. Unless you qualify the Andre the Giant winner as being jinxed. In which case, don't give it to him. But, it's... Give it to him. Or have Big Show show up in this match and just clean everybody out and he wins it. Just don't just give it to Braun. I'm tired of Braun Strowman being in these joke things. It's bad enough last year they completely devalued the tag titles by having Braun win them by himself. They just destroyed the tag belts. Might as well set them on fire in the middle of the ring. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. And then it didn't go anywhere. It's not like, hey, I'm going to bring this 10-year-old kid with me on the road. No. Stop that. Can't talk like that. Shane McMahon versus The Miz. My guess is Shane's going to continue to put on amazing matches at Mania and lose. And that this will be another example of that. Shane McMahon goes out, he performs at Mania, he performs well. You have to suspend your disbelief with Shane McMahon a little bit. I know a couple years ago, the fight he had with Undertaker, I don't think that did Taker any favors. And because this is Undertaker. This is a guy who fought Brock Lesnar for 20 minutes, and then Shane McMahon gives him trouble. And it is, you've got to suspend disbelief, but it is hard with Shane McMahon. And then during that match, you had constant comments from JBL. I was going to say John Bradshaw Layfield, but just JBL. Where he's talking about how this guy's in shape, Shane's ripped. He's ripped. Oh, sure he is. Sure he is. So I expect Miz to win. Maybe Maurice comes out with her baby bump and with their baby as well. They do have a cute baby. I follow them on Instagram. It is a cute baby. Can't take anything away from that. And then, while we're talking about this and these matches, and again, I think Miz beats Shane. It'll be Spot Fest. Shane has to kind of do the Van Terminator at some point, which is the jumping from one corner to the other to kick the guy. Somehow that's become Shane's move. Rob Van Dam did moves like that for years before Shane would have thought of it. There are 2 tag team matches rumored to be added before Sunday, which tells you what they think of the tag team titles right now. The Revival against Ricochet and Aleister Black, maybe. Depending on the rumor sites you're looking at, it's going to say that'll be the match, or probably not, which it makes sense because Aleister Black and Ricochet challenged them, and they had this big match last night on Raw, so why would you make that the match on the show? I would think that would be the match that would make some sense, but we'll see. The Usos may be defending the titles in some multi-man tag match that gets revealed tonight on SmackDown. New Day, The Bar. I put Repo Man up because Simon Miller is awesome. It's just, yeah. He's on What Culture Wrestling. Anyways, yeah, The Bar, New Day, and whoever else. Apparently it's going to be this multi-tag team. It reeks of pre-show. Could be quite the pre-show. We could have both Battle Royals on the pre-show. Usos match on the pre-show. The Revivals match on the pre-show. Everything tag team related goes on the pre-show. And as we know from Survivor Series, what happens on the pre-show doesn't matter. It doesn't count. Because according to Survivor Series, Raw won every match. They shut out SmackDown, and yet SmackDown won on the pre-show. But that didn't count. So, weird. Randy Orton versus AJ Styles, because these guys have to make their money. This match, I don't care. I could not care less. This is absolutely... The booking on this has been okay, I guess. I don't find myself caring about this. I don't understand how we couldn't have got like Kevin Owens versus Rusev, or Nakamura in the ring against Rusev for another go at it. They had pretty good matches. Randy Orton versus AJ Styles. You have to get AJ on the card. Since the title's all tied up, I guess you throw Orton in there with him. If I'm going to make a prediction on who wins here, I get the funny feeling that the good guys are going to win a bunch. I do. AJ Styles, I think, probably wins here. I think Orton's reached the stage of his career where he can lose a lot, and it doesn't really hurt his standing. Cruiserweight match between Buddy Murphy and Tony Nese. So Tony Nese won a tournament nobody watched because it's on 205 Live. And it's too bad because 205 Live, there's some great wrestling on there. There really is. Buddy Murphy is one of the best wrestlers, period. And I hope this doesn't end up on the pre-show, but it reeks of pre-show. And it's too bad because, again, Buddy Murphy is one of the best wrestlers they have. Instead of bringing up Mustafa Ali, I really think Buddy Murphy. And he is the boyfriend of Alexa Bliss, I believe, as well. So put him on the Raw brand, put him and Alexa together again, and just go from there. I think you could make a lot of money. Murphy's been a good wrestler for a long time. He finally seems to be getting his due. And that being said, I would be very surprised if he doesn't retain. I think building him up as this god among men in 205 Live, it looks planned, so that's something. And it does seem like they're building him up, and then they could throw him on Raw or SmackDown, and he has that extremely long title reign with the Cruiserweight title, and hopefully they start putting more Cruiserweights on Raw and SmackDown. It doesn't make any sense to me to have a Cruiserweight show. It's funny because, WCW, one of their downfalls was seen as the fact that the Cruiserweights were kept to their own, and that the super heavyweights were always closing out the show, and usually the big names like Hogan and Nash and Hall, and so you'd take the Cruiserweights like Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrera, Eddie Guerrero, Chavo as well. You take these guys and Chris Jericho, obviously, Dean Malenko. These guys were having the best matches on the card, but they had a ceiling. They couldn't wrestle with everybody else because the idea was, well, he couldn't beat Goldberg. How could Jericho hang with Goldberg? Look at Goldberg. And now we're kind of in that era again. Well, Buddy Murphy, look at him. Compare him to Brock Lesnar. He couldn't. That's not right. So we've kind of gone backwards. We've kind of gone backwards to where a wrestler's weight is kind of holding them back. And I think that it's holding back some guys who are really, really entertaining. And 205 Live has a bunch of guys. I think there are too many wrestlers in WWE. I do. I think partly, because they have the network and you got to fill 24 hours, 7 days a week with something. And I think it's to try to make sure they don't have to worry about competition. If you've got over 200 wrestlers under contract, you don't have to worry about competition. Okay. The cluster match. Sasha and Bayley defending the tag belts against Natty and Beth, Nia and Tamina, and the Iconics. You know what? I'll say they swerve it. The Iconics are coming into this match as the cowards. They're coming into this match as the only tag team that doesn't seem to have a whole lot going for them other than the fact that they are a team. Now, they've played it well. And while Peyton and Billy have voices that just make it feel like your brain's going to explode in your head, I do think they can win the tag titles. They're very entertaining. And I think eventually Peyton Royce will emerge from this tag team as a main event wrestler for the women. But again, you have a very deep women's division. I think we're going to see a lot of spots in this. I think Nia and Tamina will dominate a lot of this match. And then the Iconics will weasel out a win, is my guess. My backup would be Sasha and Bayley just retain. But if the Iconics win, Buddy Murphy wins, you've got to have bad guys win somewhere. So the Iconics weasel out a win. That's at least a bad guy win somewhere. Triple H versus Batista in the... I guess we have to have this match. I'm going with Batista because he's known outside of wrestling. He's Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. And Triple H loses at WrestleMania. It's kind of what he does, unless he's against Booker T, and I still think that was wrong. But yeah, Triple H loses at WrestleMania a lot. And it's funny because I remember WrestleMania X7, which is WrestleMania 17, but X7 sounded cooler. And he had a match with the Undertaker that was kind of boring. I remember we were kind of bored with it, and Taker beat him because of course he did. And then years later, they look back. Oh, they had a classic fight at WrestleMania, and it's like, man, my friends and I, we were at the bar watching that, and we weren't really into that one at all because we knew Taker was going to win. But I kind of expect Batista to win here. Is it going to be a screwy finish? Maybe. I don't know. Um, but is Batista going to wrestle in his weird clothes, wearing his sunglasses, or is he going to come out in his Batista wrestling gear? That's the only question I have entering this one. And what kind of entrance will Triple H make? Is Stephanie going to come out all glammed up as the queen? I have to say, I think once a year, Stephanie probably says, you know what, I want to get all dressed up and look all sexy for WrestleMania. Come on, Hunter, we're putting you in the ring. And Hunter's like, come on, I just want to run the backstage. I have so much fun back here. Come on, Hunter, I'm not wrestling. You got to get out there so I can get all leathered up or latex up or whatever she's going to wear and come out, all sexy and all that. And, more power to her. But we'll see how this turns out. I really haven't paid any attention to the feud, to be honest. I really don't care. I just don't. And I know I'm supposed to. Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin. Why, for the love of God, are we doing this? So Kurt Angle comes back, and we all love Kurt. I love Kurt. Kurt's a great guy. He can't go anymore. So not only are we putting him in the ring with a guy in Baron Corbin who is just he's just not. Whatever, and the sad thing is, I don't think it's his fault. I've seen there was a segment done with Baron Corbin on NXT once, when they were doing like a WWE 24 bit, and they were following NXT wrestlers around. And when you follow Baron Corbin around, he's interesting. He's an interesting guy. And he's got a lot of little quirks, and when you get into what his tattoos are and some of the stuff he's into, he's a strange gentleman, but he's interesting. And then you look at how they have him on WWE, and they've kind of made him bland. And he's lost so many matches that now going into Mania, he pins Rey Mysterio clean last night, and I go, wait, what? Because it doesn't. If they're doing it to try to make him look like he's a threat to end Kurt Angle's run, fine. But why did it have to be Rey Mysterio, who's going into a title match on Sunday and looks weak? But I have a theory about the Rey Mysterio thing. So with Kurt Angle against Baron Corbin, Kurt Angle's going to win it because it's his retirement match. And not all retirement matches involve a loss or Ric Flair crying. Or Shawn Michaels saying, I'm sorry, and crying and then kicking him in the face. If you're sorry, you don't kick somebody in the face. That's not, if I tell a friend I'm sorry and I kick him in the face, even if I'm crying, he's not going to take my apology. So I expect Kurt Angle to beat Baron Corbin. Be very surprised if Baron wins. There's some speculation maybe Baron won't be in the match. He will. Why in the world would he not be when you have him beat Rey Mysterio clean? Speaking of which, Rey Mysterio is fighting Samoa Joe for the U.S. title. I'm just going to go ahead and do this right here, right away, right now. Samoa Joe is going to win. You can't give the title to Rey Mysterio with the way this has been booked leading up to it. You can't make Samoa Joe a monster again and then have him lose to Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio, unlike Kurt Angle, I don't think he's lost a step. Is he older? Yes. That's where a mask comes in handy. A mask can hide that. Just like the face paint hides it for Goldust, right? Anyways, I expect Rey Mysterio's kid to screw him out of it. Dominic's been way too prominent in the last couple of weeks, and he's a big kid, and I'm like, okay, so Dominic's just here, and then Dominic's in again the week after, I'm like, yeah, Dominic's totally going to screw his dad over in this match. And then Samoa Joe will come out and talk about how Rey Mysterio's kid understands that he's a winner, and that Rey's a loser, and we can go through this whole family storyline that we've gone through. And we've done this with Dominic before, but it's kind of fun to do it again with him as an adult. I don't know how old Dominic is, but all I could think looking at him was, okay, he's a big kid, and he may very well be going through, training. Maybe they're going to make him a wrestler. Maybe Rey Mysterio came back to kind of segue into his kid's career. Sort of like with Dusty Rhodes during a run he had towards the end, not as a wrestler, but as an authority figure, and it was to sort of backdoor Cody Rhodes in as a wrestler. I remember Cody Rhodes coming into the ring and thinking, well, he's scrawny. He's wow, he's fighting. Okay, and Cody's proven me wrong. But that's what I feel like is going to happen here. I think Samoa Joe's going to retain, and Dominic's going to hose his dad out of it. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. I think, and Drew McIntyre's come out and said that they'll have the match of the night. This will be the best match of the night. No. I like Drew McIntyre. I do. But with them both being so big, they a lot of the moves that bring us out of our seat, they're not going to perform them in that match. That being said, Roman Reigns is finally getting the crowd reaction. It is criminal that it took leukemia so that the crowd would support him, but it's where we are. It's just reality. And because of the fact he's come back from battling leukemia, I expect him to defeat Drew McIntyre. And for people who aren't going to like it, I expect him to be thrown right back into the title picture out of Mania. I expect Drew to be thrown into it as well, but I don't think they'll ever give Drew the title. I don't get the feeling that Drew McIntyre is ever going to win the WWE title. I think they're building him up so that Reigns knocks him down, and then we'll see what they do with him after WrestleMania. Bobby Lashley versus Demon Finn Balor. This is so weird, isn't it? Why, if Finn's better as the Demon, why isn't he just the Demon all the time? And not only that, but just the t-shirt sales. I understand the makeup would be a pain in the A to put on all the time, but I'm surprised WWE hasn't had Finn say, you know what? You got to be the Demon all the time. That being said, I do expect Finn to take the Intercontinental title back. Bobby Lashley, it's not working. The Bobby Lashley Finn Balor feud has shown us that Lio Rush is fantastic on the microphone. He's been the noteworthy guy. Finn, I think it's kind of proven they do not see Finn as a main eventer. And so the Intercontinental title's not a bad consolation prize. But it feels like he's the new Dolph. So as Dolph Ziggler is quietly, it looks like he's left the company altogether. We haven't seen Dolph in a long time. Finn Balor seems to have taken his place. Good wrestler, good guy, not a main eventer. Gets stomped on at times. That's just sort of the way it is. Now we get to the big matches. So the three main events, right? Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan. I think will be the third to last one on the show. With the build that it's had, it'd be a crying shame if Kofi doesn't win it. It really would. Kofi is so popular with the fans right now. Kofi Kingston is kind of sort of fantastic. He's been fantastic for years, though. I've always supported Kofi. I've always thought Kofi was great. I still remember when Randy Orton killed his push. And it is a shame because Kofi then, he had an edge. And he dropped the whole Jamaican accent thing and being all funny. And I remember him smashing Randy's car. Pretty sure it was Randy's car he smashed. And then Randy just buried him. And that was it. He was buried, and he was never a main event threat again. The biggest thing with Kofi that we remember is his his antics in Royal Rumbles, where he'll make sure his hands hit the floor and not his feet, or he lands on the railing rather than landing on the floor, steps on pancakes, anything you can to make the rules look ridiculous for the Royal Rumble. But Kofi, I think this time, he's got a real chance because of the way they're pushing it. And Daniel Bryan is a great guy. So Daniel Bryan's got himself over as the biggest jerk on the planet, and I think he realizes how big a moment this would be for Kofi. And Daniel Bryan, who's had his Mania moment, I think if he can give Kofi his Mania moment, he'll do it, and I think he'll be proud to do it as well. So I expect that there. Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins. This is hard. So last night, Seth proved that he can't beat Brock Lesnar. He kicked him in the nuts. What is this? It turns into grade 6 too often in wrestling. So if you're gonna make yourself look like you're a threat to Brock Lesnar and to his title, you don't just kick him in the nuts. You fight him. But because again, And I come back to Buddy Murphy, because WWE no longer portrays that a small wrestler could beat a big wrestler. That's just not a thing. And because Brock Lesnar is portrayed as this monster, which he is, I don't see how Seth beats him clean. So unless they make it a false count anywhere, no DQ match, and Roman Reigns comes out and costs Brock the title, oh, that would not go over well. If Brock Lesnar's staying with the company, if this isn't Brock Lesnar leaving, I would not be surprised if he keeps the belt. I would not be surprised to see Brock Lesnar keep the title. They're building this up exactly the same way they built up his matches with Finn Balor, with Daniel Bryan, with AJ Styles. The little guy can't take him out. Brock Lesnar's a beast. He's a monster. If Brock's staying with the company, I wouldn't be surprised if he beats Seth. And I know, all the signs point to Seth winning the title. They pointed to Roman winning the title a couple of times too, and Brock retained. And then finally Brock lost the title to Roman, and then Roman had to forfeit the belt, and Brock gets it back. I really think they'll build to Roman taking out Brock. If Brock's staying with the company, and then you could do a Roman versus Seth feud again, I guess. They need to start rotating guys out of the top. When WWE took over from WCW, it was because they rotated guys out of the main event picture. And there were 5 or 6 different guys you could see being champion, not just one. And part of the reason SmackDown is better than Raw is because their champion's on every week and he fights. And Daniel Bryan doesn't make himself look like a god. He comes off as a weasel, as a champion, because he's the bad guy. And he plays the role very well. And on Raw, every couple of months, Brock comes out, poses, beats people up, and he leaves again. It's a formula they've had going for years. Years with Brock Lesnar. And I really think that they need to change it, but I don't know that they change it this weekend. Now, the big main events, Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky. They have telegraphed this so badly. So badly. Ronda Rousey comes out and says, wrestling's fake. Women can't hang with me. Wrestling's fake. And I wanted to do a video on that, and I tried a couple of times, and then I just stopped it. And I said, nah, I can't do that. But I think they're going to give it to Becky. And I think Ronda's rant about how wrestling's nothing but fake and stupid, and Natty's stupid for being my friend, and her hair's stupid. She didn't say that, but she might as well have. This only works with Becky winning. Now, this is a winner-take-all now, where both women's titles are in this match for no reason other than, look how big this card is. They couldn't build Asuka up. Well, you didn't give Asuka a feud either. Asuka hadn't been on TV. So this is part of what drives me nuts, is that they'll say, well, Shinsuke, Rusev, they weren't really getting the U.S. title over. You weren't giving them a chance. You don't put somebody out there. It's sort of like, I have my hockey channel where I talk about hockey. It's sort of like saying, this player isn't very good. Well, how much ice time did he get? Well, I didn't give him any. But the way he sat on the bench, not a very good player. So for me, when they've got wrestlers sitting on the bench rather than being in there, and then they go, well, it just didn't work. That's some crappy writing. So the fact that some of these guys are sitting out, or they're stuck in a battle royal that'll probably be on the pre-show, it just sucks. You absolutely could have had Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch. You could have built this feud up over a couple of months. Keep them away from each other would have been my advice. Keep Becky on SmackDown, Ronda on Raw. Have them run through the divisions, and then build towards a clash between the two, and have Charlotte fight with Asuka. You could have had Charlotte fighting Becky Lynch and saying, I should be in there, you shouldn't be in there, you're not that good. And then Asuka come out and say, something about Becky and how, I made you tap at the Rumble. And in the end, you could have had it turn into a feud between Charlotte and Asuka. But why do that? Just take the title off Asuka and throw it into the main event. And yeah. I thought it was funny, Wrestle Talk said today, all of the booking has been put into the main event. Absolutely. This has not been very well booked. And for the matches that were built up over a long time, like Finn Balor versus Bobby Lashley, I'm not going to watch that. Because WrestleMania is going to end up being 7 or 8 hours, I'm going to pick which matches I watch. There are going to be matches I don't watch. And there are going to be matches I'm just like, no. This match, Buddy Murphy and Tony Nese, will be must-see TV. This will be fantastic. And, yeah. Okay, so let me just close it this way. Which matches am I looking forward to watching? The women's main event, but I wanted that before anyways. I think Charlotte out of it, I think it would have made a lot of sense. Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan, absolutely. Buddy Murphy versus Tony Nese. Shane McMahon versus The Miz, because like I said, it'll be absolutely entertaining. There you go. There are 4 matches on WrestleMania this coming Sunday that I'm looking forward to, and the rest of it, It's just it's very meh the way the whole thing has been booked, and the matches that are up here are matches that it feels like we're going to the past with a lot of this, and I understand that this is the time of year they try to appeal to casual fans that haven't watched all year, but for guys who've watched all year, this just it's a card that to me is kind of left wanting. There aren't very many matches I'm really curious about. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below as always. I understand this has taken over half an hour, but it's a very big event and there's a lot to discuss. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happen upon this video, and I'll probably do some form of a live stream this weekend when this event is on. I'm just trying to figure out what I think this might be the time to go with a live stream. The problem is this is going to go 25 minutes. This is going to go 25 minutes to half an hour probably, or Brock will pin him in 5. And this one's going to go forever. That's going to be a massive main event. And so that's about an hour. And that I might just be kind of taxed at that point. But there's no hockey on Sunday, so I should be able to figure something out. I'm half tempted to just do a live stream during Kofi versus Daniel Bryan, because I think that's going to be a big moment. So let me know your thoughts on that as well. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.